Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Figure It Out cast for November 2025. Yes, the year is almost over, which is insane. I am your host, Adam Koralik, and we are going to be talking about some video game stuff and all that. As a reminder, this is a Patreon-backed podcast, so I always appreciate your support. If you can hit me up over there, you'll get early access to this, as well as all of my videos, or almost all of my videos, and you just support the channel and keep it going. You can get shout-outs on this as well. You can also pick subjects, or you can even be on it, as is the case with Joseph. Welcome back, Joseph.
Hey everyone, glad to be back here.
Yeah, I'm always glad when Joseph's around, because we have some fun conversations. Because usually it's just like some dumb news story that we're like, all right, here we go. So Joseph, you get to pick a subject, as you know, and you picked this one, and I'm very glad you did, because it was perfect. Please take it away, Joseph.
So, you know, Adam, you're well aware of how whenever we talk about the console industry, we're always like, yeah, there's basically no one who's ever going to be able to jump in and start making a new console like ever again who isn't already there.
Basically, there are companies that I think are technically capable of it, but nobody who's motivated to.
Well, guess what changed as of last week that we know of?
What? Valve is trying again?
Yeah, they're trying again, yes. For those of you who have not been following Valve's attempts at making game console devices for the last decade or however long it's been.
It's about a decade, yeah.
The last time Valve tried to do this whole Steam Machine thing with the exact same type of name, they completely shit the bed. Basically, they screwed that up so bad, did not understand how console manufacturing worked at all. Everyone was confused, and no one knew what the hell a Steam Machine was, because there was like 90 different versions or whatever. So that went nowhere, and Valve shelved hardware up until the Steam Deck happened. Then the Steam Deck, basically, by being a thing that was defined and only had like a few variations that just basically had, one of them had a better screen, they had better storage options, people bought it. People bought it a lot. So now Valve is taking those lessons and trying again and making another Steam PC console thing that's designed to basically be your living room PC. I'm going to be completely real with you. I saw this and I kind of rolled my eyes and moved on, because I knew this was not for me, because I know, first of all, I don't use Steam because I don't game on PC. So already, like, the idea of transferring my library over there is meaningless. I don't have one, etc. And actually, do you know how I found this out? So I put out an anniversary video for the PS5 being 5 years old, as well as the Xbox Series X also being 5 years old. I guess on one of those days, that was the announcement. So in my comments, it was showing up, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. But somebody most eloquently pointed out, because they linked a video that I myself made, and I'm looking at it right now. I posted a video on January 22nd, 2014. So we're talking just a hair under 12 years ago. The video is only 8 minutes and 37 seconds long. And it basically, if I recall correctly, because I really haven't watched it since I made it, my essential consensus was, well, this isn't for people like me. Who is this for? Because PC gamers aren't really going to want this. It's too convoluted, as you just alluded to. I don't think this has any real chance of success, etc. And people in my comments were like, your video that you made on this 12 years ago is still pretty much exactly the situation. They really, I think they have made it a little less complicated, but this is not something a console gamer is going to want, and this is not something that I think a PC gamer is going to want. I think the Steam Deck hit a very nice niche where PC gamers in particular had the advantage they could take their library with them portably and take, the Switch benefit minus Nintendo's IPs. But a dedicated home console that does the same thing seems kind of pointless. And then guys like me who are into consoles don't want this thing either, because it doesn't use physical media, and there's no benefit to it
for us. So I just don't know who this is for. And one of the funniest comments I saw was because somebody's like, "Are you going to get it and make videos about it?" And I was like, "Well, no, it's digital only, right?" They're like, "Well, technically, you can get a disk drive and add it through a USB port."
Games still come out physically on PC though, so that doesn't work.
I know. That was the point I was making. But that was what the guy's response was. He's like, technically, it'll support USB interface external drives for any PC games that would be otherwise compatible that actually exist in physical media. I was like, yeah, no thanks, I'm good. So, in other words,
the very niche case for Adam Koralik buying this thing is to hook up a DVD drive to it, or like a CD-ROM drive.
Oh, Blu-ray, sir, Blu-ray,
and hunt down old physical release PC games and pray that they don't need a CD key to work and that they actually work on a Linux box. Yeah, that's not happening. You're not.
No, it's
this.
not. No, I am not. This is not for me.
At the very least, you wouldn't be getting this as a gaming thing, which I might get.
I wouldn't get this at all. Like, dude, I don't buy stuff like this. Like, it has to have some. It has to have some physical media element to it that's like organic and logical. I'll give you a perfect example. The other day, like literally 2 days ago at the time of this recording, I was in a Goodwill, of all things. And there's a Goodwill that I know that actually does okay with weird video game stuff. Like I found an Atari 800 in there. I didn't pick it up, but I found one. I bought my NES Classic in there. They had an Ouya in the box, like complete, nice, all that sort of stuff. It's only like $30, and I'm like, no, I don't want that. The hell's the point of that? It's worthless. You can't do anything with it, and it's just not interesting to me. So, unfortunately, I'm in that exact camp still of that mindset. Like a Steam console that in no way supports physical media and is really just a way to access Steam's library physically to some extent outside of a dedicated PC. Cute novelty, but I'm not interested. It almost feels like the mirror flips of Xbox's strategy where they're trying to take a console ecosystem and digitize it. It kind of feels like Steam is trying to take what has always been a digital ecosystem and make it physical, but not actually go all the way there, thus defeating the whole point. So it's like...
Funny you should mention like Microsoft.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so as you've been saying, yeah, this is like a consoleized PC. Like generally, like you boot it up, it's going to boot up into Steam mode. But like the Steam Deck, the Steam machine is going to be a full-fledged Linux PC. You could run it as like a Linux box as a PC. You could, if you were in, for whatever reason, you didn't want to build a PC and you wanted a new one, and Microsoft with their Windows 11 everything has been pissing you off when you're ready to buy a new PC. Having an option that like adds money behind it that might actually be Linux might not actually be that bad of a deal. Although it's going to depend on how much this thing costs and like how much this thing's cost, how does it compare, and how user-friendly the Linux implementation of SteamOS actually is if you're actually in PC mode. So the only way I could see you ever buying this is if that Microsoft with Windows 11 just pissed you off so much that you were just like, fine, fuck it, I'll do Linux. And then you're just like, I don't want to deal with actually installing Linux. Then you get this and somehow have everything you need to keep making videos and shit. But
that's as unlikely to me as me also getting a USB-based disk drive and trying to track down like disk-based games. From
you're like you're probably not going to pick this up in any
No, I will
situation.
never get this. I'll tell you that right now.
The only way I would get this myself is like I move back into a situation where I have like an actual living room and don't want to set up my main PC as something that I could hook up to the TV there. But even then, I'm pretty outside of the use case too, because I already have a PC that's better than what's going to go in this box.
Yeah, I'm trying to be objective here, okay, right? So I'm trying to think about what is the target audience for this versus what do they think it is. Now, it wouldn't shock me if they thought the target audience was anybody who uses Steam, and it's like that vague. But in practical terms, to me, the only people who would really want this is people with a massive Steam account with tons and tons of content, maybe people who have been, have been Steam users for the better part of however long Steam's been around, like 20 years. I actually don't know how long it's been around. But they've been around forever, but now they're old enough that they aren't just playing in their bedrooms or their office or whatever it is. And now maybe they have their own house and they have a nice living room and they want to do exactly that. They want to have like a dedicated gaming area with their library instantly carried over to that living room space and not have to rebuy all their games or set up a bunch of different stuff. But also for whatever reason, and this is key, for whatever reason, don't want to just put a PC there as well. They'd rather do this. That is the only realistic use case scenario that I see. Because even though the Steam Deck was not for me, I at least got the idea that it was convenient if you were super into the Steam OS and your whole games library there, etc. Being able to play it portably had various advantages. It was never for me, but I could see the value. Even if it was niche and was never going to overtake the Switch. That is not the case here. At best, this feels like Steam trying to do the thing that Xbox is already trying to do and not being successful at. Like, I just don't get it. Like, it feels delusional. But maybe they think they have a better shot since the Steam Deck kind of has some goodwill around it. I don't know.
It's also going to depend on what their price point is, which we don't, as of right now, we don't know. All we know is that they've said that it will be priced like a PC, which functionally tells us nothing. But
yeah, well, that tells us nothing. Not only about that, but it also tells us.
But Xbox has already gone on record.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Xbox has also already gone on record saying that their next gen system is going to be a premium product, basically suggesting
like 1200. Yeah.
Yeah. Which, with what Valve is putting in this box, I doubt it's going to be near that. So if Microsoft is basically trying to make it so that their console is basically trying to do their version of Steam, and Valve is putting out a box, and they're basically doing the same thing anyway, and people are getting pissed off at Xbox, some of them might be willing to jump to whatever the Steam machine is. We won't know.
Especially if the Steam machine can run Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, I don't think Steam OS by itself can run Game Pass, but there's nothing stopping you from putting Windows on your Steam machine if you want to. I don't know why.
Right, but then we circle right back around to what's the point of this over just putting a PC there? Aesthetics?
Possibly, yeah. I mean,
even then you can build one of those little cube PCs. Like,
to be fair, that's a pain in the ass. I've done it. It's a giant pain in the ass. I do not recommend trying to do that.
Fine, I promise you I won't. But I don't know, man. I think that we're in a. How do I put this? I think that their eyes are bigger than their stomach. They might be like kind of misreading the situation and thinking that they might be able to fill some void Xbox is creating, but at the same time, fundamentally not understanding what their target audience is. Unless they have some other strategy I can't think of. Like, they have
gone on record saying the Steam machine is about better than 70% of what people are using on Steam currently.
What do you mean?
That the specs going into
like the hardware is better?
The hardware, yes. It's like 70%
sure,
more powerful.
And it would make it a little bit more. If it was successful, it would make it a little more standardized, I suppose. But that's the nature of a console. But PC gaming is not about that. It's about, being able to customize it yourself, as I understand it. So I don't know, man. It does seem strange to me. I guess I wish them luck to some extent, but I also I don't see how this possibly pans out. Is it actually called the Steam Machine? Is that
yes, they're calling it the Steam Machine again. Which is what they called the.
I would make more fun of that, but since Microsoft has used the term Xbox to describe two different consoles, I guess it's fine.
Yeah, and the thing is that if Valve's put it in the Steam Machine out, and ideally it's going to come out sometime next year. If Valve actually does want to make a serious shot and to actually try to bring their PC to the console game market, right now where Xbox is is screwing up everywhere is the only chance they really have.
I agree. They're trying to get into that hole. At least
Yes.
That's how it looks. Now, to be fair, development cycle, we have no idea how long they've been working on this. So, this it's kind of hard to say that they were motivated by the very recent changes at Microsoft. But
from an outsider's they've definitely been working on it for a while. It's just if they're going to actually do it, they have to do it now when one of the 3 established ones is basically bleeding out into the water.
Yeah, that would be Microsoft, who is also, oddly enough, almost an ally, because, again, I don't think, given Microsoft's current model with the Xbox, it would take a lot of convincing to get an Xbox Game Pass app to work on the Steam machine, natively.
Yeah, no, if the Steam machine gets people buying it, Microsoft will probably just do that and be like, okay, cool.
That's fine with us. Xbox Game Pass.
We already put all our games on your thing anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, to me, it doesn't come off as difficult. If anything, it gives Microsoft a good excuse to abandon physical media with their next system. But, time enough for that later. Rob and I are going to be talking about the 5-year anniversary of the system. Spoilers, I guess. But, yeah. Anything else you want to say on the Steam machine? You and I seem to both be of the same mind. We wouldn't be getting this.
Well, yeah, and I have no
the funny thing
reason
is, you would be more the target demographic than I would. But you don't need it for the exact opposite reason.
Yeah, I have a PC that's better than if I want a PC with Steam OS on it, I'll figure out a way to put Steam OS as one of the OSs on my machine. So,
yeah, exactly. That's.
But it turns out most people who buy computers and play games on computers are not hardcore PC, not actually the hardcore PC gamer build their own rig type person. Or actually do
that makes sense, though, to be fair.
So that's
now
probably,
the question is
that's the only reason Valve has a shot here.
It's but the question is, can you transition that audience to this ecosystem? Microsoft has been very unsuccessful at it. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I don't think that this is going to pan out. I know I'm certainly not getting one, but I don't know. Good luck. that's really all I can say.
It may or may or not. We're going to have to see what happens. I'm actually more excited for the fact that they finally made a Steam controller too. Basically,
I only knew one person who ever had one of those. He bought it just because he saw it on clearance and thought it was cool.
I tried to get rid of it.
Chip, the guy who used to be on this podcast.
Oh, I mean, I have one of those.
Yeah, I remember going to his house in Austin. He had 2 of them boxed, and he was like, "You want one?" I was like, "No." What would I do with that? He's like, "I don't know why I bought them. I don't even have anything to use it with." That I don't think he still has those. But
yeah, mine's in a
weird
box
nipple
somewhere.
Controller.
But yeah,
exactly.
This new one at least is a lot more standard. It's basically the Steam Deck controls without the Steam Deck. So
yeah, that makes sense though. I mean, I guess that tells you that the Steam Deck did well enough for them to consider this.
Oh yeah, if the Steam Deck didn't do any, if the Steam Deck hadn't done well, they would not have bothered at that point, because they would have been like, okay, we failed this hardware thing twice. We're done. So
yeah, that's understandable.
I hope this does do well though, because I mean we could use a little bit of a disruption in our ecosystem, even if it's only going to really disrupt Microsoft. Because if the Switch 2 has proven anything, it's that the Steam Deck has not hurt Nintendo at all. So
yeah, I'm of 2 minds, because obviously I like more competition and I think it drives creativity and all that. But this is also a product I would never in a million years actually buy. So the idea of it being successful only further hurts my interests personally, as far as physical media and that. Because if they prove, you can just make a discless console and everybody's fine with it, that is the end. It's Microsoft would never attempt a disc-based console again, and then Sony would have no excuse to. And then you're down to just Nintendo, who's already gotten botched physical media as it is. But it's so I'm of 2 minds on it, and I don't know where that comes out. So I'm just going to go with my gut and say it probably won't be very successful anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, like I said, we'll see where this goes and what happens. What happens with it. But, I mean, there's no way in hell it hurts PlayStation or Switch. Or or the Switch 2.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
It basically
Microsoft
can only hurt Microsoft, and Microsoft doesn't care about the box. So
yeah, Microsoft only hurts themselves, so they just constantly shoot themselves in the foot for some reason. But speaking of them, let's move on from this subject. Thank you, Joseph, for picking that. Our next subject, which is Xbox related, comes to us from Sinjeet. He actually did not directly pick this. He never responded to me, but I'm sure he'd be fine with it. So, Joseph, at the time of this recording, this hasn't quite happened, but by the time the majority of you are hearing it, the Xbox 360 is 20 years old. Now, I have done a video on the 20th anniversary of the Xbox 360, which, again, for the majority of you, that video has already come out. And for Joseph and anybody hearing this early on Patreon, that video has not come out, so it's a little convoluted. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the 360 turning 20, and I thought maybe you would have something to contribute to that. What do you think?
Where does time go? I don't like it going this fast. Go stop.
Dude,
stop.
I will say that. Dude, I like to remind people of weird anniversaries because it's always funny to me see when people are like, oh man, I'm so old now. Like Star Wars is almost 50. FYI, Star Wars turns 50 in 2 years. Well, a year and a half. So, and I remember the 20th anniversary being a big special edition, big deal. Yeah, doesn't that hurt? See, it gets worse.
I mean, Star Wars is actually a little bit younger than my brain keeps telling me it is.
Oh, that's good, I guess.
Yeah.
But anyway, but this one, when it really like dawned on me, I was like, dude, 20 years ago, I was waiting in a line in the middle of the night to get this system. And that isn't like some ancient childhood memory. Like I was 18 and I had graduated high school, college, I was already starting in. I remember it vividly. And the fact that terrifyingly was 20 years ago, it's like, dude, the gap between then and now, like that's 2045. When I get there, like 20 years from now is going to feel like nothing. And that's horrifying. Yeah. Because I'll be, 58 and I'll be like, oh, I'm almost dead. Like, it's like, oh, that's not good. I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. But yeah, the Xbox 360, man, is 20 years old. Did you get one? Do you even have one?
I do have an Xbox 360. I got mine several years after it came out, though. It was the last of that console's generation I actually picked up. So I had a Wii and
So you got the Mattel Hyperscan first?
No, when I say that, I mean like
I'm just
joking.
Okay. I'm just joking.
Yeah. Funnily enough,
Nobody counts the goddamn Mattel Hyperscan.
Funnily enough, like when I was back during that time, I was like working at Walmart, and I saw the Mattel Hyperscan in the toy aisle all the time. I was like, huh.
Yeah, nobody would buy them.
Right, because it's the Mattel Hyperscan, and it's a toy, and it's in the toy aisle. It's not in the game section.
But yeah, and it's junk. That doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
That doesn't help.
But yeah, I had a
tell
PS3.
Me some 360 memories.
I remember basically getting it to play Left 4 Dead with friends mostly, and it mostly then transitioned to being the console I played most of the multiplayer games on, because most of my friends had a 360, and I and like one other guy had a PS3 at the time. So it was basically like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll just get this, it's fine, it's not even that expensive, I have the money, so I'll get this. Left 4 Dead was pretty fun. Ended up playing some fighting games with people some of the time, and then finally got to actually play like Halo after I got mine. So I got like the first 3 Halo games and just like played through them like straight through. So that was neat to actually play those campaigns, because back in the day, my only experience with Halo had been like occasional multiplayer nights with friends, like back in high school. So, but like it was never like one of the consoles that like really like meant a lot to me or anything, just because it was like, well, that was the first, like it was like one of the consoles I got as an adult, but it wasn't the first one that I got as like an adult with money that I made myself. Like that was the PSP, but like it's just like, yeah, I mean it was basically a fun system. I liked playing it, and I was definitely happy to be able to play some of the few games that I wanted to play that were Xbox exclusive that I didn't have access to, but like it was just another box that could let me play some more games, and it was nice and it was fun. I liked it, but Like, there's nothing like any like special or formative there because, again, I was an adult at that point. So
that's fair. That's fair. I'm glad you have at least some positive memories of it. Like, I was reflecting on it because I had to be working on this video, right? And it dawned on me that the Xbox 360 is the only console Microsoft has made where the motivation was to try and make a game console and actually be successful at that. So, like, the original Xbox, I'm sure you know, they only made it to drive the direction of the gaming industry because they were terrified of the possibility of the PC as a piece of technology becoming obsolete. As weird as that sounds in 2025, that's why they made it. And then Xbox One / Series X were really more about giving you an ecosystem, and this is just a delivery mechanism for it until we can get it on other things. That's what motivated that. I mean, like, the Xbox One, of course, started off as that
the multimedia
multi-purpose
DRM
platform.
thingy.
Yeah, exactly. The multimedia platform that also, by the way, it plays games, I guess. And that's what it was meant for. But the Xbox 360 was the only time they sat down and said, well, it hurt us a lot on the original Xbox, but we got our foot in the door. Why don't we try and make like a real game console here and go with it? And they were actually pretty successful were it not for some stupid choices they made about halfway through it. And of course the Red Rings of Death fiasco. But like that makes it the most compelling of Xbox hardware to me, even though ironically I think I prefer the original Xbox despite its cloudy history. I still think that this is the system they tried the hardest to make special. And I think it's also the one that it's in the end, as we all get older, it's probably the one people will look back most fondly as unique. And probably for that reason.
Yeah, it's definitely the one, like, it honestly, like, yeah, I mean, obviously when you think Xbox, you think Halo, but, like, if you ask someone who's, like, been around, like, the entire time, like us, if you think, like, best Xbox or whatever, you're gonna hit the 360. You're gonna immediately think of the 360. It's no contest.
Yeah. And yeah, it's also the only one they ever had that had even any remote success in Japan, which says something about that too.
Mm-hmm.
It really is a shame how bad that Red Rings of Death fiasco really hurt them. And you got to wonder if they had made certain other choices, like if they had done the hardware a little better in that front from a quality control perspective, if they had, rather than just siding with HD DVD just because Sony was making Blu-ray, if they had just embraced Blu-ray like outright, like how different things might have been for them, you know? Because the weird thing is I was looking at some numbers, right? And the generation winner there was the Wii in terms of just sales.
Obviously, yeah.
But people often forget that even though the PS3 was a disaster, at least initially, it did technically beat the 360 globally in sales, barely, but it did. So unless you include the Mattel Hyperscan, the 360 came in dead last in that generation, which is insane.
It's very weird to think that. Yeah, like the fact that Sony managed to claw itself back and then get ahead of Xbox and then stay there for 2 more well, they stay there because Microsoft kept basically doing Microsoft stuff, but
yeah,
their Sony's where they're at was where they were at coming into the PS2 to PS3, partially like initially like at the top on the back of DVD, and everyone's screwing up in Gen 5 besides them. Now they're at the top because Microsoft keeps screwing up, and Nintendo has long decided to be like, yeah, we're just going to go over here. We'll just make this thing that everyone who loves our stuff will buy our console in addition to yours, whatever. It's fine. We'll make money. You'll make money. We don't have to worry about it.
Yep. By the way, that decision is 19 years old because the Wii came on 06. Like it's almost been as long for Nintendo to have that mindset of we'll be in a corner than it was for them to actually go direct competition, which is psychotic.
Right. But yeah, like I mean, it is. I mean, granted, they did do one generation where they tried to go head to head against Sony and Microsoft in Gen 6, but then after that, they're like, well, okay, these two just have a ton of money to throw around. We're a game company. We have to, at this point, they're going to make gaming be this, like, art medium thing. We're going to go back and keep making them as toys. And they've...
I guess what I'm saying is...
the entire time.
I guess what I'm saying is, so the Wii launched in 2006, right?
Yeah.
So the Famicom launched in 1983. So the gap between now and the Wii's launch is about 19 years, whereas the gap between the Wii's launch and the Famicom's launch was, what, 23 years?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, 23 years. So we're rapidly approaching the point where they will have stopped trying to be a hardware leader and just be the guys in the corner for the majority of their hardware career, not including things like the TV game 6 or whatever. But like, It's kind of like how Sonic has been a third-party character longer than he was ever on Sega hardware. Like, where it blows your mind when you find that out.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like, we're getting to that point with Nintendo now. But we'll talk about that someday, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is supposed to be about 360. But yeah, like I said, I did a whole video on this that people can check out if they want to, and we'll go down memory lane and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I would advise people, like, you know, as bad as Microsoft can be with the Xbox sometimes, they did at least produce this one, like, really cool console they really tried with. And I would suggest that if you have never done it, go out, pick one up, try it. We now live in a time where 360s are easier to hack than they used to be. So if you really just want to get into it and see, like, what's all there without having to necessarily pay for it, although you should probably pay for your games. But if you just want to see it, you're not hurting the devs in that case. So go check it out. And if you want to start getting a legitimate collection, which I always do recommend, 360 games are, for the most part, still pretty cheap. They're more expensive than they were a couple of years ago, but not that bad, to be completely real. Like, there's still plenty of $5 360 games out there.
Yeah, like the 360.
So go out and give it a shot.
Yeah, the 360 Gen A gamer is, like, in their, like, early to mid 20s now.
You're talking about Gen Z.
Gen Z,
they're in their 20s.
Yep. I mean, I have a sister in Gen Z, who's Gen Z, so it's very easy to be able to tell. Like, okay, she's like 23, 24-ish. Yeah, and she was like 6 when I got my 360, and she also played a lot of my consoles because I was still living at home at the time. So, like, It's like, right, okay. Granted, she's also the one who got my teenagerhood GameCube and PS2. So,
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys have that memory together. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you'd like to say on the Xbox 360 turning 20?
Not really. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, the game I played the most on it, but other than, like, it definitely wasn't Left 4 Dead, but I might have.
For me, it was Call of Duty 2.
I'm thinking it was probably like the. Yeah, I guess technically it would have been the Mass Effect trilogy, like if you count all 3 of them.
Sure, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, but I am very glad that I had the 360 because let me actually play Mass Effect from the beginning, as it was like relevant, as opposed to waiting until it came to PS3 or until the Legendary Edition came out a couple of years. I said a couple of years ago, as if it hasn't been like 5.
Yeah, but that's how time goes. You know this. That's the whole point of this.
That's the whole point of
time
this
just goes faster and faster. Yeah, it's depressing. So we'll move on to shout-outs, and then you guys can be depressed again by the PS5 and Xbox turning 5. Okay, so Joseph, thank you very much for the first subject. Obviously, Sinjeet, thank you for that one. Now we're going to do a round of shout-outs here. First up, we got Jeb Malcolm, Sega Steve, Loke, Michael Kelly, and Trey Wagner. Once again, that is Jeb Malcolm, Sega Steve, Loke, Michael Kelly, and Trey Wagner. These are all Patreon backers that have been cool enough to support the podcast and the channel and keep it all going. So, and then, of course, would include you, Joseph. As always, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
And we're back. Ordinarily, I would be excited to introduce you to our returning champion, Abdullah. However, he is unable to join us due to private matters, and I wish him well on those matters. He should be back next month. So filling in for him is Rob.
So it's a coincidence that I am currently in the UAE right now, in Abdullah's apartment, and he's fine. He's a little tied up at the moment, and he will be back next month. I promise. If he's good, he will be back.
Oof. Well, that sounds like you to commit atrocities, but okay. All right. Anyway, moving on.
It was worth it.
Well, is it? What time is it there?
Time for you to start the podcast. That's the time. The windows are blacked out.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway. Okay, fine. All right. So then here's what we're going to do. So Abdullah was able to obviously pick a subject, and I also had another one from Spencer Purrier. Shout out to Spencer Purrier. But what we decided to do for those was, because the PS5 just turned 5 and the Xbox Series X just turned 5, we were going to do one of those for each of the subjects. But since Abdullah's not here, fine, Rob, you're going to be talking about it. I just did videos on these, kind of extensive breakdowns. I do have some updates that'll be kind of interesting to address, and honestly, it'd be nice to bounce off you a bit about it, Rob. But yeah, really, what we're going to do here is the first subject, PS5, 5 years later, give us your thoughts, and then the second one will be Xbox Series X, 5 years later, give us your thoughts.
So, as you mentioned in your videos, 5 years, the 5th anniversary of the Xbox and the PlayStation 5. And, I find it interesting that, back in the day, this would be about the time in a console generation where these companies would be gearing up for the next, the 10th generation, as it were, PS6 or, the Xbox, whatever. But, in this age of 7-year-old console generations with mid-generation refreshes, it doesn't feel like it's been 5 years with these consoles. And I think part of that, at least in my opinion, that it doesn't feel like I've had 5 years experience with my PS5 and my Xbox Series console, is that I just feel like there hasn't been a lot. You mentioned it in your video. It's like, you were always excited to talk about what games you picked up or that you enjoyed for a given year during these anniversary videos. And there's been so little of that. So many of my, favorite franchises on both consoles, honestly, have gotten, totally ghosted or glossed over or canceled or not even acknowledged in this generation. And, I really struggle to think of the PS5 especially, as well, because that's a very, popular and successful console this generation, is what game have I gotten on PS5 that is exclusive to PS5 that really blew me away, like something like The Last of Us did on PS3, like Uncharted 4 did,
I will interject there because I will point out Astrobot is probably what most people would say.
Yeah.
And I will also like to bring that one up for a specific reason because I had multiple people in my PS5 video being like, how could you not have mentioned Astrobot? It was the biggest game of the year and you never even mentioned it. It's yeah, because it's over a year old. I mentioned it the year before. That's how long it's been, champ.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I think overall that would probably be the answer that most PS5 owners would give, though I legitimately don't know what an Xbox Series X owner would say, even as one of them.
Yeah. I mean, Astrobot, notwithstanding, that game is, incredible. It really, really is. But that's not a flagship release. That's not an Uncharted. That's not a God of War. That's not a Halo. That's not a Gears of War. That, a big tentpole AAA game. It's phenomenal, but the PS5, when I'm looking at my collection, and I've got, over 20 games for this thing, it's not like I'm sleeping on it. Most of them are smaller indie games, some horror games.
Yeah, we do share that one, that mutual love.
Yes. I love, the limited run stuff. I love the survival horror games, and PS5 is legitimately great for that. There are, a lot of indie horror games, which, you and I can appreciate. But the game that I could probably point to and say that, in these past 5 years that I've really, really resonated with and can point to as, oh, this is an amazing experience that I've only experienced on PS5 is the Ratchet and Clank game, Rift Apart.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people would say that. That was an early on, though.
But that was a launch title. It's
Yeah, exactly.
the PS5 that I use has gotten more use, ironically, as a Blu-ray player in my living room these days.
Yeah, you get used to that one.
Yeah, and I love the console. I legitimately do. Like, and I say that for the Xbox as well. Like, I think the Xbox Series X is one of the most impressive pieces of gaming hardware I've ever owned. The PS5 controller is like to die for, and I'm like, man, I really want some games to play with this controller. And the absence of new original IPs from Sony, new entries in series like Uncharted or The Last of Us, or even, like, I would take the classic PS2 3D platformers like, Jak and Daxter, Sly Cooper, anything. Just give me
my Twisted Metal back.
Sure. Twisted Metal is absolutely one of
Dude,
those.
it's got a TV series, but it doesn't have a game to go with it.
You think they'd want to capitalize on that, but no. It's like, Sony, like, really coming out of the PS3 era and through the PS4 has really positioned themselves as like, this is the console where if you want prestige AAA experiences, single player narrative masterpieces, this is where you do it. And I haven't seen that on PS5. And of course, people bring up God of War Ragnarok, but yeah, that's on PS4. People bring up what about that was that Bloodborne that got the
that was PS4, but yeah.
Whichever one got the remake, I can't remember for the life of me.
Demon's Souls?
Demon's Souls, yeah.
Demon's Souls?
Yeah, it's like, what about that? I'm like, that's a remake of a PS3 game. Well, what about The Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2? Those are PS3 games that were up-res to PS4 and then totally remastered for PS5. Like, the only one, I think you mentioned it in your video, from this past year that really stood out, which I haven't actually gotten the chance to play yet, is Ghost of Yotei.
Yeah, it's Yotei. I screwed that up.
Yotei. Because I loved Ghost of Tsushima, on PS4, and that was just another one of these amazing experiences that I had last gen.
Incidentally, Ghost of Tsushima does have a PS5 edition, which does speak volumes about the future of Ghosts of Yotei, but all right.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it in your video as well, that it's like, why are you encouraged to buy anything on PS5 when the inevitable PlayStation 6 will have the super extra ultra deluxe edition with all of the DLC and 120 frames per second, 4K,
Exactly.
It's like, Sony, you got to give me some reasons to buy some games for your console other than, like, I don't know, Clock Tower Rewind that I got from Limited Run, It's like, give me some experiences.
Which that has a Switch and an Xbox version, but yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm all for, like, I like in theory the idea of exclusives, where it's like, oh, if you want to play this thing, you have to get this thing. That's, I do like that, in theory, but, I like if a game is good, let everybody play it. Like, that's kind of at, the core of my gaming philosophy. Let as many people play it as possible. So PlayStation putting stuff on PS4, I guess, is excusable because, it's one of the best-selling consoles of all time, or putting games on Steam eventually. Okay, that's good. Got to rope in the PC master race somehow to play Spider-Man. But, yeah, it's, I just want justification for my, at the time, $500 purchase. Fuck,
so, Rob, the problem...
it's more than that now.
The problem with what you're saying is its contradictory philosophy, because the philosophy you're spouting is essentially what Microsoft says about we should have games on everything, we should stop the fighting, everybody should games should have access to everybody, which is a nice philosophical utopian philosophy, but in pragmatic terms and more capitalist terms, competition is driven by competition, like by actually not doing that. I mean, you're the same age as me. You know this. When you were younger, the Sega Genesis, the Super Nintendo, for example, they had to win based solely on the merits of the exclusive content they generated that could hook people in. That philosophy continued. Every console that we grew up on had to act that way. But now we live in an era where that philosophy is essentially dead, And so you're just basically picking which piece of plastic you like more, thus creating the exact situation we're in, where nobody is really all that motivated to try and make a unique special experience because it'll go everywhere anyway. Even when they do occasionally try something like that, inevitably their corporate overlords say, well, we're going to distribute it like this, all these different places. Like, look at some of the games that Microsoft inherited and then did that with. But I genuinely feel, and because this was the number one criticism I got in these videos, particularly the Xbox video, was just people who are baffled at the idea that you would want exclusivity, because exclusivity inherently means there is a paywall between a game and you. Like, if there, you get this, but I have to explain it in basic terms for anybody listening. If there's a game only available on, say, PS5, and you yourself have a PC, or you have an Xbox, you have a Switch, whatever, and that said PS5 game is something you really just, that appeals to you gotta have it, you now have a built-in, sunk-in cost of getting that console in addition to the game, which can probably dissuade a lot of people. I get that. And that's, on that surface, yes, buying extra hardware is annoying. It's like paying taxes. It's annoying. Nobody wants to do it. But then the result of it, much like taxes, is that it has, as long as they're used correctly, of course, is certain benefits for everybody. And that's the same with gaming. You know, that built-in cost of why you bought this machine is that there's teams dedicated to making games specifically, uniquely exciting for that particular piece of hardware, that makes that particular piece of hardware interesting and have a legacy and matter. And that's it, people who even argue with me on that do concede that this generation is not interesting. And it's like, yeah, that's why. Because you've all decided, not you specifically, but like as a collective, as people, we've all decided everybody should have everything. Therefore, everything is uninteresting. Everything is milquetoast. Everything is Campbell's soup. Everything is just the samey. And we just look at which brand we like better just arbitrarily. So you can't have it both ways. You can't say you want to be driven by exciting exclusive games that really give you a reason to come back to the table, while simultaneously being like, but all those games shouldn't really be exclusive. They should be everywhere and everybody should have them. Do you get what I mean?
Well, that's why I said, like, in theory, I want everybody to have access to games. But it's like, I understand...
And in theory, communism works, but it doesn't.
No, but, like, I totally understand why, like, that philosophy of exclusivity for IPs and you know, games is why the Nintendo... was, well, one of the main reasons why the Nintendo Switch sold, you know, what, almost 140 million units.
Jesus, they'd only sold 140,000. God,
yeah.
That's like
loopy.
That's like
loopy
CDI
levels.
numbers. No, that's like Amiga CD32 numbers. That's like, oh God, we're out of business. Anyway,
but yeah, it's, you know, it like I get that idea of exclusivity is what makes these brands special. You know, that's why people are buying Nintendo Switches. Like, aside from it just being kind of a cool piece of hardware, it's like, I get that.
Sure.
But honestly, I think people bought PS5 and Xbox Series consoles because, yeah, it's a cool piece of hardware, and it's like, you got to get the latest and greatest. You know, it's got, you know, and, you know, I'll be the first one. I bought into that hype. It's like, I wanted to get these consoles at launch because it's like, oh man, I got to get the latest and greatest. You know, I got to get it on the next generation. You know, but it's about justification. And Sony, to their credit, is not as widespread problematic with spreading their IPs around as Xbox has become. Like, I mean, you could probably count on, you know, two hands the number of, like, first-party Sony games that are available on PC. You know, your God of Wars, your Ghost of Tsushimas. But then again, the problem is you could probably count on three hands how many amazing exclusives to the PlayStation 5 are even available anyway. Like, you know, the sheer absence of games from first party, but also like third party, you know, developers, in favor of, you know, shoehorning in live service games or battle royale games or online multiplayer games, exclusively, instead of, you know, creating more AA game experiences or, you know, smaller games. Not every game has to be 100 hours that you put into this massive open world. Like, you know, the smaller games are great too. You know, you can do that.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to tell like a story in a game, which is once again what PlayStation excelled at in the PS3 and PS4 days. It's, you know, the absence of these games is baffling to me, because it's like you have an install base and you have a gaming public that are so rabid for content now. It's like you want games. Like, the gaming industry is bigger than Hollywood and music combined these days. There's money to be made if you release something and promote it properly, and, you know, a system can be sold by games. I feel that the PlayStation is a system that was sold just to get the system, but there's nothing unique or original to it that is, you know, drawing, you know, gamers like me to turn on their PS5 once they have it. Yeah, it's frustrating. You know,
I would agree with you there.
Yeah, I love the console. I really legitimately do. But I just want more. I just want more fucking games for it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's basically all I have to say for PS5. Oh, there is one last thing. I think you, just thinking back to your videos, you did bring out something interesting, that the price hikes that Sony and Microsoft,
yes,
and to an extent Nintendo as well, have kind of put on these consoles, mid-generation price hikes, is what you said particularly egregious when you look at the performance of the PlayStation 5 Pro, and how few units that system has sold. Because the idea of spending, what is the MSRP on that? Like, what, $750 for
now? It's $780
for PS5 Pro. That's a fucking absurd. That is
without the disc drive. Without the disc drive.
That is over a 50% price hike on the console, a PS5 system, from when its base launch price was, and you do not get a disc drive. I could say very confidently, you know, I still work at Digital Press, video games.
That's a video game store, everybody.
Video games in Clifton, New Jersey, 2 locations. Yeah, I've never seen us get in a PS5 Pro. I don't know anybody that has one, because it's like, oh man, I can't wait to get this PS5 Pro and play fucking nothing with it. You know, what are you going to play, fucking Fortnite on it? There's so little need for it, and Sony has the absolute fucking balls to ask people to spend $780 on a handicapped console without a disc drive to play, you know, their maybe one game a year that comes out, and I don't know, fucking Fortnite, you know, on this thing. Give me a fucking break. It's so. This is the worst console generation. That's my core thesis of this podcast is. God.
I like seeing you come to that realization during this conversation.
No, well, I mean, it's the worst console generation. I mean, really, it's like I could think of more fucking second gen games that are exclusive to the second gen.
I would take this over the first generation. I wasn't that big of a fan of Pong, but outside of that, yeah.
Yeah, it's sad. Love the controller though; it's great. It's a great Blu-ray player.
I've said the same thing every year. It's like, well, the controller's good. I just wish there was something to play with it.
Yeah, I do have to play Astrobot, you know, more, and I got to play the Ghosts of Yotei.
Just for everybody who thinks we're being negative Nellies, those games are good. That's why we're giving them credit. But you are talking about at that speed, you are literally talking one game a year. Because Ghosts of Yotei was this year, that was 2025. Astrobot was 2024. And he has to go back to Ratchet and Clank, which I think was 2021.
This is 2020. It was
not
a launch
2020.
title.
I don't think it was a launch title. I think it was after launch.
It was absolutely a launch title.
Do you know that?
Yes, because I bought it at launch.
God, oh, really?
Yeah.
Maybe it's because I struggled so hard to get a PS5. Now I have to look it up. So forgive me if you hear clicking. Ratchet and Clank, PS5, Launch edition. Rift Apart. I can't find an obvious launch date, annoyingly. Not in a quick search anyway. Whatever, I'm just going to trust you on this one then.
Checkmate, atheists.
Thank fuck. All right, whatever, screw it. Anyway, point is, that's kind of the point we're making, is you average like one worthwhile game a year.
Oh shit, maybe it was 2021.
Ha! I win. Okay.
I can't remember now. Fuck.
Now, yeah, that's good. 2021. Okay, anyway. So if you're averaging like one worthwhile game a year, yeah, that's where we're at. And we come from a generation of older dudes who remember like this happening often. Like, you know, there was worthwhile games pretty frequently. And I think it, in part, dude, is just due to the limitation of where gaming was from a financial perspective at the time. You said it yourself in this video, which was that gaming is now like the biggest entertainment industry. So there's way more eyes on it. There's way more pressure on it. So it has to be an almost perfect product, ironically making it less perfect. But it has to be as appealing and cast as wide of a net as possible, where that you were allowed to have way more creative freedom and just put out more projects back in the day. Granted, you have to have a certain balance of quality control. Not going as far back as, like, say, the 2600, where there's no quality control. That perfect balance, I really feel like, was struck in the 90s. And now we've got to a point where games are so big and so ridiculous that it's not financially possible to do anything other than do multi-platforms and get every bite of the apple you possibly can, which really devalues your product because it's diversified so much and diluted so much across multiple generations that you're just like, what was the point of even buying this? Because it's the same thing. And Last of Us is like the perfect example of that. And I don't know, man, like it's not sustainable where games cost this much money, because like one failure and you get like the Concord type of situation where it just completely bankrupts everything after 8 years of development. And I don't know, man, but the thing is, from a PR perspective, how would they ever roll that in the other direction? How would Microsoft or Sony ever come back and say, like, hey guys, it's too expensive to do this, so we're just going to make games that, you know, are kind of like equivalency of like 8th gen hardware era stuff, and we're just going to take our time. Like, Nintendo, weirdly enough, was right to have, you know, basically held back with the Wii and said, we're just going to sit back every generation, be a full tech generation behind, and just kind of make better games with older tech and keep stuff within budgetary reason. And they're reaping the benefits now. And Microsoft, I can see affording to do this because they treat the Xbox like a Nepo baby project. But like Sony, I don't know what they're going to do, because they can't compete with just having like one worthwhile game a year. But I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I don't know. I don't know where this goes.
But to your point too, I think, you know, in a way, you're incorrect about this idea of like, oh, making 9th gen games when you should be making 8th gen games. I think one of the big problems with this generation especially is that we have not really seen enough games take advantage of the hardware of the Series X and the PS5, or, you know, in this case, the PS5 Pro. Because so many games also have to be backwards compatible with PS4 and with PS5. And there's only so much, you know, up-resing or frame rate boost that you can give to like a 9th gen edition of a game when you're also having to make it operate on a PS4 or an Xbox One.
So, just so I'm clear, your argument is the exact opposite. I'm saying it's too expensive to basically make games adequately, frequently. Like a Sony title, like the ones we've been talking about, Astrobot, Ghost of Yotei, Spider-Man 2, etc. Ratchet & Clank. Those were like multi-year long development cycles in order to get one game out because they're trying to utilize the hardware correctly. But you're suggesting that having games, and I don't think the PS5 does this, but like Xbox stuff is certainly more guilty of it, having to have builds of the games that function on now 12-year-old hardware still, unless it specifically says Xbox Series X on the case, which is often the case. You're saying that's the problem?
No, so yes and no. Is that, yes, you brought up some examples like Ghost of Yotei and your Ratchet and Clank. Those are graphical showcases, yes. But think about God of War Ragnarok, Horizon Zero Dawn 2, the God of War, did I say the God of War game?
You did.
Oh, Spider-Man. These games are on both consoles. It's like,
yeah, but wasn't that like 4 years ago?
this still fucking happens, dude. Like, there are games still being released for PS4.
I'd be honest, I don't pay much attention to what PS4 is doing currently.
It's like, yeah, Astrobot is on PS5. It's like, and it's great, but it's not exactly a fucking graphical masterpiece. It's like,
no, that's true.
You know, my thing is that it's like graphically the games aren't blowing us away when I think the hardware is capable of far more. I think the way you saw games and developers learn how to use a console to the best of its ability, like the PS3, it's looking at a game from the launch versus at the end. It's like there is a clear upswing in terms of the capability that developers are being able to unlock with this. When in this generation, it's like you are weighed down by the last one. That's the curse of backwards compatibility and this idea of physical firmware updates. It's like the PS5 is just the PS4 except with like a little bit more juice, and like twice the size. But
it is a beast of a machine.
And I'm not disputing that games aren't expensive and development cycles are long and arduous for developers. That is absolutely the case. But the focus of the developers on creating these huge fucking games that need to have like a 5-year life cycle with their multiplayer at least, or need to have 100-hour campaigns and everything like that, when most people like are burnt the fuck out on that. It's like, you take a look at a game like The Last of Us. The original Last of Us on PlayStation 3, you could beat that game in like 5 hours. But whenever someone says like, what's like a great like PlayStation game, like The Last of Us is always one of the first that people point to, because the game's a fucking masterpiece. It didn't need to have this grand fucking thing. It could just tell a story and have a great game. It didn't need, ironically, it did have DLC, but it didn't need DLC. It didn't need a multiplayer mode, even though it had like a little side multiplayer mode. It's like, it could just be this thing and just let it exist. I think the pressure from companies on developers to create these expansive, unending games is the thing that's racking up the fucking money. And like the budgets are getting out of control. That's where it's at. It's not because they have to develop, textures for a PS5 as opposed to a PS4. It's the scope of the games is the problem.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Major AAA games and doing like, they have the development cycles are just far too excessive. I don't think we're quite arguing the same point. I'm not saying that they don't utilize the hardware, and they really should. I do think that would be nice. And yeah, sure, there's some legacy issues by holding on to additional support for previous generations. But my whole point is the amount of content that must be produced, how big in these games in scope, and how much resources and time and money it takes, makes it financially impossible to keep exclusives as a thing, which is why they delude so much, and also why they come out so infrequently. That's essentially what I'm saying.
Which is why, these console companies, if they do own subsidiary developers or companies, are, cutting them or, or
the
losing
industry's
them.
a mess. Let's leave it at that.
Which I think segues excellently into talking about the Xbox.
Okay, so that'll do it for the PS5 portion of this, even though it's kind of all one thing. So shout out to Abdullah there. And now on to Spencer Purrier. We're going with you for Xbox Series X 5 years later. Even though technically it should have been the other way around because Xbox came out 2 days earlier. But whatever, screw it. Rob, Xbox Series X / I guess Series S. 5 years later. Go.
Fuck! God damn it, the fucking Xbox. God fucking damn it. I tried so much to love you.
You sound like a fan.
I fucking love the Xbox, dude. It's like dude, I don't know, like how many fucking podcast episodes have we fucking done on, Xbox Series or Xbox One consoles in the past, 5 years. that we've been talking
A
together.
lot.
You know, and just
Usually
like,
it's bad.
you know, and, you know, but there was like a time where, like on this podcast, I would say it's like, yeah, like I'm a physical game collector, but fucking Game Pass is so awesome because I'm able to like.
And I kept telling you, like, dude.
And it's like
I kept saying it.
yeah.
I was like, dude, there's no way it lasts that way.
I get it, like, you know, and that was something at the time that was exclusive to Xbox. Although, you know, Sony ended up kind of having something similar with the, what is it, PS Plus or whatever the fuck it's called.
Is that still around?
It is still around, yep.
Wow.
So yeah, you know, it was special to the Xbox, and I remember us talking when they acquired Bethesda, and when they acquired Activision. You know, we were talking on this podcast about the possibilities that Xbox, like, oh my god, the amount of studios and IPs that they now have under their umbrella, what they can do with these. You know, suddenly Xbox could start producing games from dormant franchises, or better yet, you know, take a game like a Call of Duty, you know, a game that is one of the largest annual releases, you know, in the video game industry. And if that became an exclusive, what would that look like? That'd be incredible for Game Pass. And I don't know if Microsoft's idea was ever that, or if that was squashed the minute they were taken to court by Sony, claiming monopoly when they were trying to acquire Activision. It's like, you know, we talked about, like, what, you know, they could put World of Warcraft on consoles and have WoW subscriptions tied to your fucking Xbox Live. It's like, there's so much they could have done. And what Microsoft has done instead is speed run a console collapse. The collapse of a brand.
It's baffling, isn't it? It's
yeah.
just baffling.
I left a comment on the Era Xbox video. You made the point where, like, Xbox is like, yes, we need to position ourselves as a developer where we don't care about the platform. Your phone is an Xbox, your computer's an Xbox, your PlayStation's an Xbox, everything is an Xbox. All we care about is if you play our games. And then they pull some shit like the last time I was in the fucking podcast and close dozens of fucking development studios, lay off thousands of developers, cancel games that are highly anticipated, or, you know, something that they could have hung their hat on and made exclusive, or at least gotten some fucking shine on their name for a change. And instead, they're like, oh, well, fuck that. You know, we're just going to put Halo on PlayStation, and we're going to raise the price on our console that nobody fucking buys. And, oh yeah, and you can stream shit on your phone now. Oh, and also, it's more expensive. Money, please. That would be great. Fuck Xbox. God damn it. We said so much nice things about Phil Spencer. You know, and you know, it's you either die a hero, live long enough to see yourself become the villain. He is now the fucking villain, you know.
To be fair, Sarah Bond is in his old job, but yeah.
He has become Don Matrick, destroyer of Xboxes.
That's an interesting thought, because Phil Spencer saved Xbox from Don Matrick, only to turn around and, like, kill it worse. Like, it's just kind of weird if you think about it.
But yeah,
I don't know. It's yeah.
I love the Xbox, as I mentioned before. Xbox Series X is one of the most impressive pieces of gaming hardware I've ever had. I love it. It's still my primary gaming machine. It shows how fucking addicted I am, like a junkie to this goddamn thing. I do my multiplayer gaming on Xbox because I like the ecosystem. But it's like, if you think I still have fucking Game Pass, if you think that, you know, the next generation, if they do release another console, even though it's probably going to look more like the Steam machine than a fucking console, and if you think I'm going to buy that, abso-fucking-lutely not. Which is heartbreaking. And I want to kind of point out an interesting, you know, kind of experience that I just had. About a month ago, I went to Best Buy, and I looked through their very small selection of Xbox games because their retail footprint is basically non-existent outside of a GameStop now. And I went to the shelf and I picked up a copy of Silent Hill F. Great game, by the way. Great game. If you haven't played Silent Hill F, it's awesome. And I picked it up for PS5 and I picked it up for Xbox, and I was like, oh, which version should I get? And my instinct, was always to get the Xbox version because, I like the system. And I do most of my gaming on there, unless it's exclusive, ironically, to PS5. And when I took it to the register, I thought to myself, this might be the last physical Xbox game that I ever buy new. I got an Xbox in 2003 or 2004 when Halo 2 came out. Halo 2 was my first Xbox game that I bought.
November 2004.
Yeah, 2004, right, yeah. That was my first Xbox game. I got a copy of Halo 2. In 2025, almost, over 20 years later, Silent Hill F is probably going to be my last physical Xbox game that I go to a store and buy new. And that really hit me. And, it's sad because you and I are of a kind. We have both had amazing experiences with Xbox. We've shown the brand and the consoles a lot of support through the years, even when maybe they didn't deserve it, but especially when they did. And I don't think it's a company that is worthy of my money, my love, or my support anymore. And that is very sad because, I could look at a company like Sega, and Sega was taken from us, by the cruel hand of fate and money.
And poor management.
And poor management. It was taken from us. There was not a slow decline of Sega. It went out on top, really. I mean, the Dreamcast is fucking incredible.
Blaze of glory, man. Unless you include the Sega Bina.
The real goat. But like
the real goat, the Sega Bina that nobody had.
Yeah. Xbox, as I said, has really, is speed running their downfall, and has given me a lot of pause, and reflection on where I'm going to be doing gaming going forward. And it's sad that I won't be doing it on an Xbox anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what's in store for them as far. I do think they're going to do another system, but whether it includes any sort of physical media is highly up for debate.
There's no way. I mean, they've already released a Series X with it. They already released the Series X without a disk drive. Like
I know.
There's no way.
I'm aware, Rob. I'm just saying it's still up for debate till we know, but I don't believe it will be either. But I could easily see them being the ones like, who cares? Physical media is not important. We're just releasing it anyway. F yourself.
Yeah.
So actually, I told you in that video with everybody else, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who will remain anonymous. He attended a little mixer that had various Xbox people working at it, and he had a long conversation with one of them, which is where a lot of this, he called me up and told me about that after like a month and a half ago when I did like what is going on with Xbox. Like it was a video I made. And he called me, he's like, you nailed it. This is exactly how they think. It's so bizarre, blah, blah, blah. One thing I kind of forgot to mention that he was talking about is he was asking the guy, like, why don't they allow more physical media sales? Like limited run, can do Nintendo stuff and Sony stuff, but they're very selective on Xbox. Like, why is that? Mm-hmm. And the guy's response was essentially because physical media doesn't have many sales, so it's not really worth anybody's effort. He's like, you'd be surprised how few people actually buy it. And my friend's response was, well, that's because you don't allow it. You've diluted it so much that nobody wants to support your versions of it. Because to them, there is no difference between just a download and a disc that contains nothing but a download code, where it doesn't actually contain any data. They don't see any difference there. And so the reason they're not getting it is because a lot of us who do physical media on Xbox are just like, well, I don't want that build of it because it's broken already out of the box, or you didn't release it at all. So why would I support your platform? It's like they just genuinely don't get it. and it's very annoying. So it would not shock me at all, as I'm sure it would shock no one at this point, if the next iteration of Xbox had no physical media support. But in their defense here, I'll give them a bone. That means, if that holds true, that the Xbox Series X did actually have the most universal support of discs of any console ever produced. It supports Xbox Series X discs. It supports Xbox One discs. It supports various Xbox 360 and Xbox discs. It supports 4K Blu-ray discs. It supports Blu-ray discs. It supports DVDs. And the creme de la creme, it even supports music CDs. That's a hell of a lot of formats all under one roof.
Still waiting for my VCD patch.
I don't know what's stopping that. Where's my HD DVD download?
Yeah, but, they had an attachment for it. Where's that backwards compatibility, Xbox?
Yeah, what the hell? Yeah. I was actually thinking about this today. I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't use Spotify, but if I remember correctly, my ex, she could actually make Spotify work in games, kind of the way the OG Xbox could use music CDs or the Xbox 360 could use an iPod. It's like you can play music within games, get rid of the onboard game music, and just play with the sound effects as well as your Spotify playlist. And it's like, other than my ex, I don't remember anybody ever talking about that. That's the weirdest thing about Xbox, is they occasionally do really cool stuff like that, and they just don't advertise those features. Like, they put music CD support in a console released in 2020, where they had no reason to do that. They actually, it's not like it was free for anybody listening. They pay a licensing fee for that. And they pay it to Sony. Mm-hmm. And they still do it.
Hell,
that's where I go. But at no point, I guarantee you, at no point did Microsoft ever sit down and advertise, buy the Xbox Series X because it plays CDs. This is why it gets so frustrating to talk about them. Because on the one hand, they do stuff like that where I'm like, that is so cool. That shows legacy support. That shows this desire to do right by people who have grown up around this technology. And then on the flip side, they're like, oh, let's get rid of the disk drive entirely. Who cares about releasing anything physically? What the hell? That's why they're frustrating. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Another kind of ability that the Xbox had that I like, when the Series X came out, especially, and the Series S came out, that is similar to that was, like, do you remember when it first came out, they had like a development mode?
Yeah, of course. The developer mode. People used it for N64 emulators. Yeah, I remember all that.
Oh my god. Like, the ability to legally jailbreak your console and, like, install RetroArch on it, or like run its own kind of like little operating system on the other side, like partitioned. It's like, that's incredible. It's like, that's real user capabilities that they didn't have to put in there, but they did, because they felt that it's like, hey, this could encourage game development, this could be good for app development, this could just be good for the consumer. And nothing that Xbox has done really in the past 3 years has been pro-consumer. In fact, most of it has been very anti-consumer.
Yeah, that's why they're so frustrating.
Yep.
Unfortunately, this is the people at the helm right now seem to be in that mode, and unfortunately, they're most likely to be the ones responsible for new hardware, which means we're probably not going into it too well. However, if history repeats and it tanks so badly, they might be like, oh, all right, we'll change course again. But I mean, like, once you launch a system that was digital only, you can't retroactively be like, all right, never mind, we changed our mind, it's going to have physical media now. It's not like the Ouya eventually had a disc version, but whatever. I mean, I will say that as a dedicated console gamer, like, for physical media guys like us, one of the primary arguments we've always had against gaming on PC, other than one I believe you brought up earlier about compatibility and, like, do I need a new video card? Do I have to buy a new thing? I know it's going to work. Outside of that, has always been the perceived sense of ownership, having a physical item, etc. And if you're telling me my console is now digital only, like, I don't even have that going for me. Yeah. Like, I am on the record about this. a digital only version of the system I would simply not buy. That would be the end of the line for me. The only context in which I would get one would be like literally if Shenmue 4 happened and I was like, okay, the system exists solely for the purpose of that's my physical edition of Shenmue 4 is that console. But like outside of that, no.
Slap a sticker on the console and call it there's my
I would, dude, honestly, I'd be like in the Shenmue forums, be like, all right, somebody make like Shenmue 4 decals for my PS6. My discless PS6, like we have to do this. I gotta preserve it. that would be my logic. But
anyway, I mean, I've said all I need to say about the Xbox. It's just like it's infuriating and frustrating and just like heartbreaking, honestly.
Yeah. So happy anniversary to the Xbox Series X and PS5. Thank you very much to Spencer Purrier for that one, and Abdullah, of course, before. Give us some shout-outs here. Joseph, obviously, for joining me before. Shout-out to Sinjeet for his subject, and just shout-outs for shout-outs. Jeb Malcolm, Sega Steve, Loke, Michael Kelly, and Trey Wagner. And once again, Rob, thank you very much for joining me on the podcast. And everyone out there, thank you very much for listening. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, check out all the social media stuff in the description: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, obviously, at my travel channel, and you can buy merch over on Spreadshirt if you want. It's all there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.